Let's get right into it. Welcome, SSLC students, to this explainer. Today, we've got an incredibly inspiring session lined up for you as we dive into your prescribed English chapter, A Phoenix Rises. We're going to unpack the totally remarkable true story of Padma Shri Arunachala Muruganantham, who you probably know as India's Padman. We'll break down the narrative, starting with the fictionalized story by Twinkle Khanna, and then transition straight into his real-life interview so you can perfectly grasp the key themes for your exams.
Okay, just imagine this for a second. You're 14 years old, you've unexpectedly lost your father, and you're forced to drop out of school to support your family by working as a busboy in a welding shop. I mean, how does someone starting from that incredibly tough position eventually end up standing in front of the President of India to receive a Padma Shri? Well, it's a journey of absolute resilience.
So, here's our roadmap for today. 1. The price of hygiene. 2. Taboos and trials. 3. Meet the real innovator. 4. Impact over profit. And 5. A message to students.
All right, moving right into Section 1, the price of hygiene.
In this story, we meet Bablu, a simple welder. He discovers that his new wife, Gauri, is using dirty, unhygienic rags during her period simply because sanitary pads from the store were way too expensive. Bablu decides to buy a pack as a gift and takes a really close look at one. Now, his dad worked with cotton yarn, so Bablu knew exactly what he was looking at. He realized that 10 grams of raw cotton would barely cost 10 paise. Yet, this packaged pad was being sold for 4 rupees. That's a massive markup. It was a financial absurdity that made basic hygiene a luxury poor women literally couldn't afford. Gauri even told him that buying these meant they wouldn't have enough money to buy milk for the family. This realization just launched him into action. Bablu couldn't accept that little girls in his neighborhood were risking disease all because of corporate pricing. So he brings scissors, cotton, thread, and cloth home. And within 24 hours of touching a sanitary napkin for the very first time, he actually crafted his own homemade version. But as he soon found out, making a pad that truly worked wasn't going to be that simple.
Which brings us to Section 2, Taboos and Trials.
As his experiments continued over the months, he hit a massive wall. Not just a scientific one, but a wall of deep societal resistance. First, his mom basically begged him to stop, warning him that his interest in women's menstrual cycles would completely disgrace the family. The village started whispering, and because women flat out refused to test his prototypes, Bablu took a pretty extreme step. He actually experimented on himself using a football bladder filled with animal blood. When a neighbor caught him doing this, the rumors just exploded. It was too much humiliation for his wife, Gauri, and she left him. Soon after, his mom left too. He lost his family, his friends, his money, all for trying to solve a hidden health crisis.
All right, moving to Section 3, Meet the Real Innovator. Let's pivot from the fictional Bablu to the man behind the legend, Padma Shri Arunachalam Muruganantham. His real-life interview gives us the exact mechanics of how he finally succeeded.
In his own words, Muruganantham explains the huge scientific hurdle that kept those early cotton pads from working perfectly. He was using regular cotton, but all his experiments were failing miserably. It took him 2 whole years of trial and error to figure out that the popular multinational brands weren't using standard cotton at all. They were using pinewood pulp. But when suppliers sent him a hardboard of pinewood pulp, he was totally stumped. How do you make soft cellulose out of a hard piece of wood? His big eureka moment happened entirely by accident. One day, his pet dog accidentally scratched a hard sample card of that pinewood pulp, and underneath he could see the soft, cottony material. It wasn't high-tech lab equipment, it was literally a dog scratch that gave him the breakthrough idea of defibration, breaking down that tough material into soft fluff. Once he figured out the material, he faced a new problem. The machines to make these pads cost crores of rupees. To keep the product truly affordable, the machinery itself had to be incredibly cheap. Through relentless trial and error, he successfully designed 3 separate low-cost machines to handle the exact 3 steps needed: defibration, compression, and sterilization. He built them so simply that anyone could operate them without formal training. This brings us to Section 4, Impact over Profit.
With a functioning machine and a patent finally secured after 13 long years of struggle, you'd think he'd just cash in with big corporations and become a billionaire, right? Nope, he didn't. Instead, he adopted this revolutionary philosophy: my profit margin is based on need, not greed. He placed his hard-earned patent straight into the public domain. He subsidizes his machines for women's self-help groups. He firmly believes that the true success of entrepreneurship isn't about hoarding wealth, but about allowing others to benefit. Following Mahatma Gandhi's wisdom that women could transform India, Muruganantham decided to use the power of women to empower women. He focuses on 3 core pillars: awareness, availability, and affordability. Because women communicate best with other women about menstrual hygiene, his grand vision is to generate 1 million jobs for women across India, while achieving 100% household hygiene.
Now, students, pay really close attention to this phrase for your exams. When talking about his product, he says, "I prefer to use the word detail rather than retail." He wants the women running these machines to have deep, personal, detailed conversations about hygiene with their customers. He completely prioritizes social impact and education over mere sales turnover. In fact, he respects his process so much that he says he bows to all teachers because they spend their whole lives detailing information to their pupils.
And you know what? His method absolutely works. This localized, empathy-driven approach has led to the creation of 1,363 independent local brands run by women. It has brought in hundreds of millions in revenue collectively. It's living proof that an impact-based business model can be wildly successful without being exploitative.
His relentless dedication eventually brought massive national recognition. He received the Grassroots Technological Innovations Award from IIT Madras. In 2016, the government of India awarded him the Padma Shri. Furthermore, his work helped spark huge discussions in the Indian parliament that ultimately led to sweeping policy change, the waiving of GST on sanitary napkins.
But, despite all the awards, the fame, the movie adaptations, and the global accolades, what does he consider his greatest triumph? The most important reward for him was that his family, his wife and mother, who had left him during his darkest, most humiliating hours, finally understood his mission and came back to him.
As we wrap up this explainer, let's jump to our final section, a message to students. The interview ends with something incredibly important that Muruganantham wants you to take away from his life. He urges you to remember the true purpose of learning. Education is meant to empower us. He says we shouldn't just get an education to go out and beg for a job. Instead, we need to use our knowledge to identify social problems and create jobs for ourselves and others. As he puts it perfectly, convert every problem into an opportunity. Come out with a solution, an innovation, an enterprise.
So, I want to leave you with this thought today. As you study this chapter, prepare for your SSLC exams, and look toward your own futures, think deeply about Muruganantham's journey from a 14-year-old dropout to a social revolutionary. Ask yourself, what problem in your community will you convert into an opportunity to transform the world? Keep that with you, study hard, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.